So I had a bit of an incident in the last video. Yeah, this SCCY CPX-2 discharged not when I squeezed the trigger, but when I released the trigger. So we're gonna analyze the CPX-2's failure, and then I wanna take a look at how I handled that unexpected discharge that we had to see what I did right and what I did wrong, and then I wanna get your thoughts on that. And then I've got a big question about the SCCY that I need you to answer for me, so be sure to stick around for that. If you didn't see my review video on the CPX-2, basically what happened is I was going through my normal tests, and then I was having a whole bunch of failures with the gun, and finally the thing decides just to go off when I released the trigger. Took me totally by surprise. And surprisingly, there's not really a whole lot of information, at least that I could find, on what causes this issue with the CPX-2. So that's pretty disappointing. But I did see a video from Headshot87, I think I'm saying his channel name right, and he was actually having the exact same issue with his CPX-2 that I've been having with mine. His CPX-2 was also discharging when the trigger was released, and then it was even kind of bump firing in a way when he tapped the magazine. Really weird. I want to see if I can duplicate Headshot87's bump firing phenomenon on the CPX-2. So we're going to be doing this test with a clear weapon. Of course, I am not going to put ammo in this piece of junk. So I'm squeezing the trigger. All right, you can see the hammer right there. It is stuck. The trigger is all the way depressed. The hammer is not dropping. Let's tap the mag, see if we can get the fall. 1, 2, 3. Come on. Still hasn't dropped. Aha, there it went. The hammer just fell. Trigger still depressed. So it took me a few more taps than what it did in Headshot's video, but yeah, this thing does in fact bump fire if you tap the magazine. Now I haven't been able to determine with any kind of certainty what exactly is causing this issue with the CPX-2. My theory is that there's a burr or some other kind of inconsistency within the hammer mechanism that causes it to get hung up. And then when you release the trigger or tap the magazine, it kind of jars it free and the hammer falls and the gun discharges. But whatever the issue is, it's totally unacceptable, especially on a gun whose target audience is new shooters and people who aren't necessarily into guns as a hobby, because you're just looking for a cheap option that you can rely on and that you can count on, that you can use for self-defense. Failures like light primer strikes, failures to feed, to eject, whatever, are the kinds of things that you would normally expect to happen when a gun malfunctions. But to have the gun discharge when you release the trigger, that is something that is totally out of the ordinary and completely unexpected. I mean, I certainly wasn't ready for it. Let's replay the footage from my incident, and then I want to get your feedback on how I dealt with that failure. Okay, whoa. That was a little bit scary right there. You can tell by my voice right here and how I held up my hand like that I was a little bit rattled at this point. So after I pulled the trigger and nothing happened, I'm thinking, okay, maybe I've got, light primer strike, maybe it's a bad primer, the more common things that you would typically expect when you squeeze the trigger, but you don't get a boom. Then when I release the trigger, boom, the gun discharges and it actually recoils back pretty far. So to critique myself with this incident, I shouldn't have started to relax my grip on the gun before I released the trigger, because that's why it was able to fly so far back with the recoil. I should have maintained my normal grip while I released the trigger, because then I would have been in full control of the gun no matter what. And that's exactly what I did the second time the CPX-2 failed on me, because this time around I was ready for it, so I maintained my normal grip on the gun as I let go of the trigger. The gun discharges after I've relaxed pressure on the trigger, but it didn't really matter because I was still in complete control the entire time because I hadn't relaxed my grip this time. So I'm definitely gonna file this lesson away for the next time I encounter any kind of failure when I'm out on the range. But the good thing that I did here with this incident was I always kept the muzzle pointed downrange. I never let it deviate in any other direction. So even though the gun did go off unexpectedly, the round just went harmlessly into my backstop and didn't cause any problems. And this whole incident is really a good reminder clear and drives home the importance of always keeping the muzzle pointed in a safe direction, because we do that exactly for situations like this when the gun goes off when you're not expecting it. That's my self-critique on this incident with the CPX-2, but I want to get your input on how I handled this situation, so be sure to let me know what you're thinking in a comment down below. Now for the big question about the CPX-2 that I need you to answer for me. Do you A, want me to send the gun back to SCCY to see if they can fix it? B, do you want me to destroy the gun in an entertaining way? Or C, do you never want to see this thing on the channel ever again? Let me know what you want to see in a comment down below.